Feel-good books. We all love a good feel-good book, right? Those books that are just fun to read, that make us feel happy, that we just feel good sinking into, and we want to spend time with those characters. These are the books that are so often recommended, passed around, rated 5 stars, all the things. But for some reason, they never seem to get quite as much attention as more literary books or controversial books, even though we all love them so much. So there was a push a few years back toward what was called uplit, but it never really seemed to catch on as a concept, even though people do love these books so much. Personally, I still look for books that would fall into that uplit category, especially as we're coming into spring, summer, like we are right now as I'm filming this. I love those lighthearted books that just make me feel kind of happy. So, what makes a feel good book? Now, this is probably different for everybody, but for me, it's pretty simple. Generally, it's just nice people being nice to each other. I also like books that might have a touch of the absurd that are kind of funny, and any book that has a really good animal character will often suck me in as a feel good book, too. Again, your criteria may be different, but those are kind of the types of books you'll probably find on my list. Now, today I'm just sharing 9 of my favorites, but I actually have a full list of more than 20 feel good books over on my website. If you want to hop over there to see the full list, you can also grab a printable version of the list. And I do tend to update those lists as well. So if you're finding this after I'm posting it in 2023, you may find some newer books on that full list as well. So let's get into my favorites. First is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. Now, I actually just finished this book on audio. I think I'm a little late to this party, but I loved it so much. This is about an older woman named Tova who works as a night cleaner in the local aquarium. Her husband has passed away, and 30 years ago, her 18-year-old son disappeared. So she's been grieving that this whole time as well. Now, she enjoys feeling useful at the aquarium, and one night she realizes that the giant Pacific octopus that lives there, named Marcellus, has been escaping his enclosure. He kind of goes on little adventures through the aquarium, and the two kind of develop this camaraderie. And we get occasional chapters in Marcellus's voice as well, which is just amazing. And if you have a chance to listen to this on audio, because Marcellus's voice is just the best. And through this little kinship that they have, Marcellus realizes that he actually knows a little something about Tova's past. So he needs to try to figure out how he can communicate to her what he knows. So I think you'll love this story if you really like unlikely friendships and stories about community. And if you also like stories about animals like I do, especially if you like their kind of funny observations that authors are able to give them when these animal characters observe humans, I think you'll love this book. The next book on my list is The Secret Life of Albert Entwistle by Matt Cain. This is about a man who lives in England named Albert, who has worked his whole life as a postman, and he's been informed that it's time for him to retire. He kind of realizes that his job is really his only connection to other people. He's kind of isolated himself his entire life. So he decides that it's time to change that. He also decides that it's time to find George, who is kind of the long lost love of his life. And really, he just wants to start living an authentic life that he sort of denied himself all of these years. He's had a lot of shame about his sexuality, kind of because of how society treated those things when he was young. And now he's ready to open up to the people around him. So this is really just a lovely story of Albert's journey toward kind of self-acceptance and friendship and, again, community. And it kind of jumps back and forth in time. So we understand why Albert is the way he is. This is a good book for anybody who loved A Man Called Ova by Frederick Bachman. Albert is not quite as grumpy as Ova was in that book, but very similar kind of tone for this one. The next book on my list is Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen. This is about a girl who has just graduated from high school. Her name is Zoe, and she heads to Mallow Island in South Carolina to claim the apartment that her mother has left her. Now, this apartment is in kind of this quirky complex called the Delawisp, and it's got characters who are just as quirky as the building itself. So not only are these kind of magical birds hanging around, but there's also some ghosts hanging around who have pretty strong opinions about how the people who live there are living their lives. So as Zoe settles in, all of these sort of small mysteries kind of come out, with help from the ghosts that bring all of these other birds living in the complex together. This is a really good choice for you if you love books about found family and, again, community. And if you've ever read Sarah Addison Allen, you know she brings that light touch of magic that is always so wonderful, but not too over the top. The next on my list is Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Rayburn. Now, this one is about a group of 4 women who have worked as assassins for more than 40 years. It probably sounds a little weird to have a book about assassins on a list of feel-good books, but bear with me. So they were hired as assassins for this organization called the Museum following the end of World War II, and they were hired to hunt Nazis. So they spent their lives targeting the world's most evil people, but now they're retiring and they've gone on a cruise to celebrate their retirement. But once they land on this cruise, they realize that the organization that they worked for all their lives is now targeting them. So they've got to use kind of their old-fashioned assassin smarts to turn the tables on their employers in order to survive. Now, again, this might feel a little weird to be on this list, but it was just such an outrageous, kind of absurd, and just fun, fast-paced book that I had so much fun reading it that it kind of fits that sort of feel-good mood that I'm looking for when I'm in the mood for an uplifting book. And besides that, how can you not cheer for Nazi hunters? So the next one on my list is The Ladies' Midnight Swimming Club by Faith Hogan. Now, this is about 2 women who live on the west coast of Ireland in a small town, and the husband of one of these women has died. So her friend Jo has asked her daughter Lucy to come and take over his surgery while Elizabeth, who's the woman whose husband has died, kind of gets her affairs in order. So Lucy arrives from Dublin with her teenage son, and she seems to be struggling in some ways as well. So Jo shares her secret with these 2 women, which is that midnight plunges in the ocean bring peace. So as the 3 are trying to sort out their lives, these midnight swims become central to their healing. And they also kind of become a community rallying point as well. So this story just had a lot of small town charm, really lovely friendships, and just a really peaceful setting, which is maybe the opposite of the last book I just shared with its thrills, but kind of has a different sort of feel-good vibe all the same. The next book on my list is How Lucky by Will Leitch. This is about a young man named Daniel who is living with an illness that's largely stolen his mobility and speaking ability. But he leads this really rich life. He has this just hilariously spacey friend that adds a lot of humor in the novel, a wonderful caregiver, and he's very observant and insightful. So one day, Daniel is looking out the window and he observes a young woman getting into a car and she disappears. So he knows he was the last person to see her and that he has to do something. So this is about his adventure trying to find this young woman. And a lot of the time we're kind of inside Daniel's head, and he just has these really wonderful observations. He's very funny. And this is just an easy read and a sweet story that kind of packs a punch. The next feel-good book that I'm sharing is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Now, I haven't included a lot of romance novels on this list. I know they're not everyone's cup of tea, but this one in particular is a pretty good fit for a list of feel-good books. Now, it's about this doctor named Alexis she works in Minneapolis, and she's driving through a small town one night when she has some car trouble, and she meets Daniel, who lives in this nearby small town, and he helps her out, and they have this sort of instant connection. So they continue to see each other, but they both have these kind of long-standing obligations that make it feel impossible for them to work out as a couple. So it's a pretty simple premise, but the way that these 2 just really enjoyed one another was so nice. And the small community that Alexis is sort of folded into just adds this other element of sort of a Hallmark Christmas type feel. If you love those movies around Christmas time, you'll love this novel. As the title also indicates, it's got sort of some fairy tale elements woven in very subtly as well. And this was just really one of the most kind of delightful romance novels I've read in a long time. This is my first Abby Jimenez novel, and I'm planning to read many more of hers. The next book on my list is The Sign for Home by Blair Fell. Now, this is about a man named Arlo Dilly, who is a deafblind man in his 20s. Now, he's very bright and very curious, but he's also been kind of isolated by his uncle and the Jehovah's Witness community that he's grown up in. So he decides to take a college writing course, and this interpreter named Cyril is hired on to help him, even though Cyril doesn't really have experience with deafblind clients. So these 2 soon begin this wonderful relationship where Cyril kind of teaches Arlo about rights he never really knew he had, and Arlo teaches Cyril a whole lot about being brave and authentic and taking risks for love. There's actually a lot of really serious themes in this book, but there's also a lot of moments of levity, and again, this great relationship between the 2 men and also kind of a cast of supporting quirky characters. So this was actually one of my favorite books of 2022. So So the last book I'm sharing is Finley Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano. This one is kind of along the lines of Killers of a Certain Age. So it's about this author named Finley Donovan, and when she's in a restaurant discussing her book with her agent, somebody near her mistakes her as a contract killer. So she soon finds herself in the path of the mob. She's hiding bodies. She's getting in all kinds of trouble with her kind of sidekick named Vera, who is kind of a nanny to her kids and lives in her house with her. She's dodging the police and having kind of these little romances with a cop and with a lawyer that she meets. And she's kind of using everything that's happening to her to help her with their book. So this is the first in a short series, and I kind of think of it as sort of a replacement for the Stephanie Plum series by Janet Ivanovich, which was also a very fun series, but it's definitely really kind of spread out and gotten a little bit tired over the years. So this was just felt really refreshing, really fun. I flew through it, and Finley and Vero are just this fabulous duo, and it's just so much fun to read that it is sure to be a good feel-good choice for you if you just need a little bit of escapist reading. So there you have it. Those are 9 of my favorite feel-good books. Again, if you want the full list of 20 or more books, you can head over to my website at the link below. There's a printable list, and I will also have a post there for you with plenty of other recommendations for when you need a good book to pick you up. So I hope you'll give me a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.